Okay, welcome to this new episode of Questioning Regeneration. This week we're focusing on regenerative agriculture. Quite excited about this one. There's obviously a lot to be said. Thank you, Christian, for being here. Some more people may drop in, but we will already get started. So, as a way of introduction, I just wanted to give a bit more background about this session. So it is one of the babies of our project, The Gathering of Tribes, which is an event bringing together the regenerative ecosystem that will take place in September in Portugal, 11 to 15 September 2024. It will be a beautiful space for dialogue to bring people together for more collaboration in the regenerative ecosystem. Questioning Regeneration is an initiative that was led by Simon right here and myself for the past 4 or 5 months already. This is our sixth or seventh session, and we have been focusing on key themes in the regenerative ecosystem for each session. With really fascinating people with fascinating stories. In those sessions, we aim to focus on questions rather than answers. And this is meant to be a space that more or less mimics what will or may be happening in person during the Gathering of Tribes. Simon, I'll hand over to you to say a bit more about the
Thank you.
format and
Yes.
how it will work.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Audrey. The idea really is that we're working towards the gathering. We're working on behalf of the gathering, and we have this recognition that while people can sometimes disagree about labels and disagree, well, what is regenerative agriculture, or what is regenerative, or what is agriculture? Um, Quite often, when we actually focus down on questions, and particularly if we find questions which are interesting to different people, interesting to a range of people, that is a really good way of bringing people together in conversation, in dialogue, and then that can be the springboard for connecting for action, as one of our favorite little phrases goes. So what we're doing today, it's basically the same as we've done before. We've been developing the method, but it's basically along the same lines. We're going to ask people first to check in and find a question, or at least one question, but one question to, in fact, perhaps today we'll have, I'm not sure how it's going to work with this number of people, but let's just see. The idea generally is to find questions which we all feel are alive and sort of like, oh, that's a really good question around the theme of, around the sphere, if you like, or theme of regenerative agriculture. What kind of questions will bring people together in dialogue? What kind of questions will stimulate people to come together and really go deep and actually get that real connection, and maybe a question oriented towards some kind of action or some kind of positive project or something. So we're aiming to do this in two ways. Again, I'm not. Let's just see if this works. But we were going to start off maybe in two groups. Are we going to start off in two groups, or shall we stay together?
Yeah, I think let's stay together.
Okay, let's stay together. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if we stay together and actually bring up the questions, Audrey and I will kind of act as your scribes and try and sort of like write down what are the actual questions which seem to be coming up, and then we'll find questions which maybe one person will be able to grasp and hold space for a particular question, and that's going to be really positive, because if we get one person holding a question and saying this is the question which really feels like mine, then we can go into what is effectively an open space after that, where each question holder has a room, and people can either just join the room which they want to, the question which most grabs them, or move between rooms if you're not quite sure which question grabs you. And the idea, what we're aiming for, is to really refine those questions and get the best crafted questions that we can get around this sphere of agriculture, which are going to draw people into dialogue and draw people in to maybe events in the actual gathering. Any questions on that? I mean, have I explained that okay? Or would you like to? Anybody like to ask anything
Yes,
about that?
it was clear. Yeah.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, thumbs up all around. Thanks, everyone.
Can I start with my main question?
Yeah, sure. I was gonna go around, but actually you're first on my screen, so go. But if you can actually, before you get started, we're gonna help everyone with a quick prompt just to structure it a little bit. So, your name, where your physical body is today. I will put those in the chat as well. And what questions are you bringing with you today? Just as a reminder, we're focusing on regenerative agriculture. So what are the one or more questions that you're really bringing with you today from your work? Go for it, Atman.
Okay, my name is Otman. My physical body is in Morocco, West Coast in Mohammedia. And my background, I'm an international civil engineer from Germany. I've studied in Germany and Denmark, but I had problems with civil engineering. So I tried to understand sustainability in general. And here, what I think one of the most important questions: how to define healthy soil?
Thank you. That's a great starter. Christian, you're next on my screen.
Thank you so much, Audrey. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the space here, for opening the space and keeping the space, to the whole team and to everyone who's here. And you can call me Fu, by the way, as I wouldn't say this is a business contact. Let's do this here. So my name is Fu. My birth name is Christian, but my real name is Fu. I am grateful to be here in a beautiful place, 1 hour northeast from Lisbon, Portugal, West Europe, where I live since a few years and try to re-indigenize and grow roots after being more or less a digital nomad for half of my life, before that term was even coined. My questions. These are 2 questions that I carry in me since a while and that are companions of mine in a lot of meetings and discussions. So the first question is, how do we bridge from the dying entropic system to the new emerging syntropic system? If you are familiar with the Berkana Institute 2-loop model, it's based on that. And the second question is, what can we do to overcome fragmentation and lack of impact? So these are universal questions in the space of regeneration, but I think that we in the agricultural space should also try to find answers or search for the answers to those. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next on my screen is Victor.
Hi, my name is Victor. My physical body is about 1 hour north of Lisbon. And yeah, I mean, my my question is more of a meta question to hear and learn of what questions come up here. And through that, learn more about the state of regenerative agriculture.
Thank you. Aksa?
Hi everyone, I'm Aksar Shuja from Gathering of Tribes, and my physical body right now is in Islamabad, the capital city of Pakistan, and the second most beautiful capital in the world. And I'm an environmentalist, so my question is about soil. As Osman has already asked the question that what is the healthy soil? So my question is that soils, there are two types of soils. Like soil is also always alive, but because of our ill practices, soil gets dead. So my professor in plant ecology once told us that soil is the only thing that has been researched that can be dead, and it can get rebirth. So it can get alive again. So how we regenerate or re-alive or resurrect this dead soil? So my question revolves around this concept. So yeah,
Thank you so
that's my
much. What's the first Aksa? Most beautiful capital city?
Istanbul, I think.
Oh,
Not
okay.
sure.
Interesting. Interesting. Krista.
Hi, my name is Krista, and I'm in Budapest, Hungary at the moment. I don't have the question formed yet, but it's about needs, human needs. What does it take, or how can we know what our needs and what do we need to really have enough, how to say it, to not want more than what we need.
Thank you, Krista.
Thank you.
So David is gonna, I think, put his question in the chat, and so is Osa, but I'm waiting for them. Alan, I don't know if you can hear us, if you wanna check in.
Hey, everybody. My name is
Yes,
Alan.
nice.
I'm currently in the suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. Yeah, let's see. So I've been in the world of regeneration for about 4 years now, studying it very deeply and intensely, taking every possible course there is with the term regeneration. Even went and took a lot of sustainability courses. The first thing I started with was permaculture design. I think that's a very critical thing to have in as a universal set of principles to work through our times. But when I looked at all the different programs that there were, I noticed that permaculture has a lot of different segments or different fields internally. And I found this one particular one called biocyclical permaculture, which is the only one that is truly regenerative because it uses only the materials, plant matter that are on the land itself. So no external elements and fertilizers and all these other things. You can create it all on your own in the land itself. Yeah, and I've been studying alternative forms of agriculture like syntropic agriculture, regenerative agriculture, and its many different definitions. But the one that really gets me curious is about regenerative agriculture or with animal livestock. I think it's one of the 6th or 7th tenets in the organic regenerative certification from the Rodale Institute that you must integrate livestock. I think that's patently false. It's still promoting a non-biodiverse culture. It's monoculture and monocropping of single type of or multiple types of grasses. So my question to you, it's very provocative. How do you regeneratively slaughter a living sentient being?
Okay, let's go. Thank you. Thank you. Really nice. Glow, great to see you here. I don't know if you're able to speak. Yay, great.
I'm new here, so can I just re-ask the question?
Yes, sorry. So we're just doing a round of check-in, and the prompt is, what is your name? Where is your physical body? And what question have you brought in this space today? Which is, we're talking specifically about regenerative agriculture, but if it's more widely about regeneration, that's completely fine.
Amazing. Thank you for holding the space. Hello, everyone. My name is Glow. I am currently in Austin, Texas. Yeah, I was just really tuning in on this new narrative as I hosted a panel at Envision Festival recently with 6 other people on regenerative storytelling, shifting the narrative. And what's been really on my heart as Earth Day is coming through is just like being able to shift from this like fighting, attacking narrative of like, we have to fight climate change and all these things, and like just shifting that into regeneration and like being able to like show that shift, because you know the mainstream media has been using this term as a bioweapon against us. And so just being able to kind of show like just shift like into like what is regeneration. And for me that is like where a world where everyone has access to clean water, food, shelter, community, love, and where we have eco villages thriving, and where we have food forests and all the ecosystems are restored, you know, all the, you know, the plants, the animals, and everything. So that's kind of been on my heart today, and I think I'm going to make a video about that shift in narrative, because I came from an environmentalist background where, you know, I was fighting the Kinder Morgan pipeline the same time as the Dakota Access Pipeline in the States, and got arrested for, you know, for proposed protesting. That was the intention. So, you know, coming from, and I just studied environmentalism and resource management my entire life since I was, you know, in high school and then into university. But then when I found myself in the Amazon rainforest, found myself in China, found myself in Mexico on the, you know, most pristine beaches with all this plastic, then I began to wake up to our actual problem and like learn that I was also the problem, that I was using all this plastic, that I was, you know, consuming animals that were slaughtered from these slaughterhouses and these factory farms, and just like all the systemic issues that we face today. And realize that I had to go within, and that everything comes, you know, everything starts within us and our own consciousness, and that everything is consciousness. So just stepping into that new embodiment of regeneration and really learning to become more embodied in my own body, in order to make change as well. So I really liked one of the questions that someone had about impact, and, you know, making that shift, and how do we deal with not making this impact? Because I feel like we've all been doing this for so long and want to see this greater change and this tipping point of like this, you know, this flow of resources and energy to all beings, and to actually shift into a regenerative planet. And so my question is that why aren't we collaborating more? Because one of my main goals is to create systems of collaboration to cross post, because when we cross post online, then we create so much more amplification. Like 1 + 1 isn't 2, it's more like 10 and then greater. So what's preventing us from trusting each other enough to, you know, promote each other's projects, to hold space for each other to evolve, and to step into that next level of impact? Because we do have the power. Just with being here on the Zoom call, like there's what, 10 of us or 11, and if we all shared this, you know, on our networks, we would get, you know, so many different views and so much reach, and like people would be messaging us and wanting to connect and learn more. So just planting that seed for, you know, that next step of collaboration, and also learning how we can create better trust. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Brilliant. I'm just going to close the round by reading the questions that we have from David, who is there but sick in bed. So David is host and founder of Kobana, which is a co-living in Transylvania, offering temporary home and office to focus on work and projects. He's in Heathrow right now because of overwork as a pilot. His question is in line with Fu's question, which is, how to use regenerative agriculture to move from a world that is focused on scarcity to a world that is focused on abundance. Thanks so much, David, for that. And I'll also read the question from, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. If I'm not, I'm sorry, from Hosea Kandagor, who is joining from Nakuru in Kenya. And Jose's question is, how can we have sustainable incomes from our farms without harming soils and nature? Yes, super important one. Also, thank you for that. And another one from Hosea, can food forests and permaculture practices to farming really generate regenerative incomes in our context of Kenya drylands specifically? Yeah, that's it. Simon, did you ask your question?
I'll check in. No.
Yeah, sorry. I was thinking also me. I want to check in.
You want to check in?
Yeah.
Who do you want to go first, Audrey?
Please,
We
go for
both
it.
need to check in. Okay, right.
I need to figure out a question.
My check-in. My name is Simon. I'm currently located about an hour east of Brussels, between Brussels and Brussels and Maastricht, but in the Flemish part of Belgium, where there is a lot of agriculture, but actually, sadly, an awful lot of chemicals applied to the fruit trees. And I'm not really actually involved in agriculture at all, but my question tends to come, is a very general question, which comes around all of this regenerative space, which is how do we collaborate in building a knowledge commons oriented towards learning, a learning-oriented knowledge commons to pool our knowledge, in this case about agriculture, but it would be the same for any other area, to pool our knowledge, to share our knowledge, and to grow it collaboratively, and to act as a learning resource for individuals to study themselves, either by themselves or in a peer group or in led session. But the point is that education and learning is so much easier if there are good trusted resources, good trusted comprehensive resources, which you can find. That's really important, because it's probably, the information is probably out there, but how do we actually document it, find it, put it together in a commons? That's my question. Great. Audrey.
Thank you for this. And I just want to do some plugging in there, but Bertrand, who maybe will join us again later, runs a platform based in France, but which is a resource knowledge sharing platform for regenerative agriculture specifically, geared towards farmers and the entire ecosystem. So yeah, interesting linkages there.
Are you gonna pop that in the, if you've got a link, pop that in?
I will after I've checked
right.
it.
Okay, right. Check in first. Great.
I'll put the link in. It's quite interesting. I don't know if it's just French though, but hi, I'm Audrey. I'm right now in the Azores on Terceira Island, which is basically a rock in the middle of the ocean. And I'll be back in Portugal mainland soon. The question I bring today, I think, is based on my history. I come from a family of farmers. All my grandparents were living and working on the land, so this is very much in my bones, although it hasn't been in my history. And for me, the question that remains is, how do you scale this? Is this scalable? Because it seems that, I don't know, it feels like such a simple question, but I can't have one conversation about regenerative agriculture without this feeling like such a massive sort of blocker to further dialogue and further implementation and further collaboration. There's always this, farmers are here and they're just trying to make a living and they can't, and we bash them up with a lot of guilt tripping about what they're doing wrong. And so there's a lot of dynamics in the entire supply chain, from farmers to cooperatives, which at least in France have a huge role to play, to industry to consumers, and I think we tend, when we don't have our hands in it, we tend to underestimate the complexity and the strength of this supply chain. So for me, it's this: how do you move the whole supply chain, and how do you scale up those regenerative practices like permaculture, syntropic agriculture, or many others that we are bringing up to the surface in these conversations. That was a long one, sorry. Okay. Pavel, great timing. I don't know if you can hear us.
Hi everybody. Sorry for late join here, but my life is very dynamic these days. I'm collecting money for the next round in our startup, so sorry for it.
No,
But
don't apologize. It's great timing. We were just finishing the round of check-in, and then we will move to discussions. If you can just introduce yourself by saying what your name is, where your body is right now, and what is the key question that you have today in your work or in relation to regeneration or regenerative agriculture.
okay, so I'm in Krakow in Poland right now. I run the contract startup, just focus on soil analysis, and my questions for regenerative farming agriculture is how we can make it practical to scale. So it will be more available for mainstream. So especially for small and medium farmers, SME sector.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This is actually a super beautiful group. I feel like we have so many angles of the topic covered, which is fascinating. Simon, given that there's a few more people, I'm wondering if we move to 2 breakout rooms to have this next piece of the conversation. What do you think?
Sure. I think we've got some. What's coming to me now is that what we can, if we ask people now to just reflect on what you've heard, and I don't know, Paula, if you can see the chat history, the questions are there in the chat history, if you can see that. And what we would like to do is to, I mean, shall we go straight into that, or should we just bring up those from 2 breakout rooms or 3 breakout rooms?
Yeah, I think let's bring them up from
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's have
rooms. I'll create 2 rooms.
2
So yeah.
rooms. Okay. Right. Good. I'm going to we'll break out into 2 breakout rooms, and in that time, try to sense into what question have you try and get the sense of, is there a question there, either which you've put or you've heard put, which you feel, yes, that captures the spirit of what we're all talking about. What question is shared? What question will bring us together? Okay, so that's your task for the first breakout room. Okay, great.
And I want to reinforce the fact that the context for this is very much that we are here laying the groundwork for the gathering of tribes, right?
Absolutely.
And so the idea is that we're bringing up those questions so that we can come together around them and collaborate, partner, let things, actual real life projects emerge from those questions, just so that it helps you frame it a bit more.
And just to put in, even at this point, if you answer a question now, a few people will hear it. That's not very effective. If you ask the question at the gathering, you might get dozens of people or even hundreds of people answering it. So keep your answers, please, until the gathering, but now really try and focus on the questions which will bring people together and stimulate people and feel alive, bring people together in that way. Okay, thanks.
Any questions? Yes, Adnan.
Yes, I have actually a very important question. I am a civil engineer, and I come to this topic from a very different angle. So the idea of scaling, I've heard this several times. We have to talk about housing. how to house people on the land, secure housing, high quality housing in the land. So when you, for example, when you have a dozens of acres of land, and then you're gonna need a small village to how to construct this. This is a very important thing to consider because housing is one of the most important things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely it is, but we're going to deal with that in a different session. Which session are we going to deal with that in, Audrey?
Homes. Thank you. Yeah, we have a whole session on this, but that's really valuable, and you can bring it in.
It's a really important question, absolutely. But today we're going to focus on the agriculture related questions.
Yeah.
Actually,
So I will open.
Could I bring something up?
Please.
I'm really glad that Othman just brought that up, because when we're trying to look at these things in piecemeal, separate, we all know this because we're all practitioners, I hope, of regeneration as it really is, not as it sounds nice, in the doing good paradigm, if you know what I'm talking about, the 4 paradigms of regeneration. We're working in fragments and in piecemeal, and so it's only iterative. And when you're doing things in small steps, it feels good in the moment because we're actively doing something, but we're really working on the smallest part of the real work. But just to say that I know it's difficult to do these kind of sessions, and if there's any way to work through this regeneratively, yeah, it's difficult with our preconceived notions and the way that we always do things, and yeah, so it's hard to break the chain. But I just wanted to re-up what Othman brought up.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I mean, this has been just to say, and then I don't want to get into too much of a tangent, but it's fascinating because I mean, for context, Alan, I think it's important for everyone also. We started those by defining the spheres of regeneration, which are literal boxes, and obviously we know and understand to a certain extent that regeneration is about the interdependencies, and it is about looking at things from a systemic level, and is about not creating the boxes because the boxes don't make sense in real life. And yet we're here trying to focus on a topic and focus on a theme, and we're creating some boxes, right? But yeah, thank you for that. And I think, yeah, it's about structuring and framing while keeping the flexibility to bring things like what you brought, Othman, because they may be relevant. Yeah. Thank you.
We're in service of the whole. Don't worry about it. We are in service of the whole, and we're bringing the questions which are related to agriculture, and we're going to put those in the bigger frame. But the bigger frame is not all here today. There are lots and lots of people who would love to talk about it. They're not, unfortunately, all with us today.
So if that's okay with everyone, I'll create 2 breakout rooms now, and we will have approximately 15 minutes. And the idea, again, is to reflect on what has been asked, and together already to try to come around, as Simon was saying, this one question. And then we will come back into plenary, and one person from your group will be the speaker, the gatekeeper, the steward of that group, and will present the question to everyone, or it can be a couple of questions, and then we will work from there in the next breakout. I hope this makes sense. Everything is quite flexible, so no pressure on the indications. All right, great. So then see you in 15 minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. Hello.
We're gonna get back in 15 minutes, Audrey.
Sorry, you're breaking out a bit. Can you repeat this?
I was asking about, as everyone left, we are gonna join again in 15 minutes.
Yes. So it's now 2 breakout rooms. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then we come back together. Hi, Krista, Alan, Hosea, and Glow, and Axa. So we have now 15 minutes. Can you all hear me, first of all?
Oh, we're in a breakout group together.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
I
do we want
can.
to stop recording?
No. Would you
The
like,
other
would we,
Are the other breakout rooms recording?
no, you can only record in one breakout room. So the recording will follow us. Well, it follows me.
No
If
problem.
that's okay.
It's up to the others, however they want to.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can't really, I'm sure both conversations will be really interesting. So yeah. Um, all right, so we have 15 minutes. And yeah, I just want to really leave the space to you guys. I think we have a really interesting, diverse group here. Thanks for your comment, Alan, on the chat. It's not, is there a question that captures the spirit of our collective intelligence here, but what is that question? So I guess maybe let's try and come together around this. Who wants to start? Maybe we can start. I can start us off by asking a question, which is, what is everyone's, from what you heard in the first check-in and the sharing, what is something that really came up for you? A question that really resonated with you?
I really like the question, how do we scale regenerative agriculture?
Yeah, this has been following me for 10 years. I don't know if it's the right question, though, I have to say. But yeah. Alan, I'd love for you to go deeper. I was also really fascinated by your question. I would love for you to say a bit more about this, just to remind everyone, how do you regeneratively slaughter a living sentient being?
It's more of a koan, right? And the answer is pretty obvious, but you still have to think about it in a way that's not mechanistic and fragmented. True regeneration is about uniqueness of place and about enabling the essence, the unique essence of each living being. When we remove the actual aliveness of the being, and just Glow mentioned it very passively, that there's these slaughterhouses that we don't even know that there are the numbers and the masses of death that's happening for our temporary pleasure. I can keep going on. I just don't, I mean, I have a whole spiel I can go on, but everything is lost in the fragmentation and separation of our connection to life itself. Regeneration is life. It's as simple as that. You cannot regenerate and kill at the same time. It's pretty simple. If I may mention for like 2 sentences about some numbers on this, because it should hit home after this. Since farming came around about 10,000 years ago, wildlife has decreased by 85%. Biomass of all life decreased by 85%. Currently, humans and our livestock make up 96% of all the biomass on Earth, leaving only 4% of wild biomass. This is an uncontested number. And it's only due to our encroachment on wild land. 70% of it is agriculture specifically to feed animals or to house animals. So if we all went to a plant-based diet, we would convert 3/4 of all existing croplands to wild lands. And the only true regenerative lands are wild lands, not human-made, beautifully orchestrated, inspired by French gardens, so-called regenerative agriculture. I have not seen one single source that proves that regenerative agriculture is more beneficial than rewilding that same land. So that's where I'm coming from.
I have a question.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's like more specific. I recently saw, like months ago, when it first came to the independent theaters, Common Ground. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm just wondering, is there a way, or have you seen any ways that cattle is being used just to like graze and not be slaughtered? Because in the film it shows like the benefits of having cattle graze land. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very simple question. I think we don't want to get too diverted, so I'll just quickly answer this question, and then we can go back to like the group session. And I'm more than happy to have an individual session with anybody on this stuff. I have a whole paper I can share here as well. The simple question is it right to remove land for human purposes, even if you're making minor improvements that are not permanent? So regeneration means regenerative. If you do a regenerative land stewardship, it means if the human is removed from the scenario, it's still going to continue to regenerate itself. That life is inherently regenerative. So regenerative agriculture is inherently non-regenerative, because if you leave that land and you're no longer stewarding it, it's going to go die. It's going to die. It's going to go fallow. So the only way to truly have long-lasting, permanent relationship with the land is to integrate wildlife. So all the benefits that are supposedly brought up by cows, which is not, it's just not possible. The weight of a cow today is about 5 times larger than it used to be. So the benefits are about trampling and causing these things. It's not how life evolved in the first place. And their whole excuse is that it's because we're trying to mimic nature. But you're only mimicking one tiny little piece of nature, and it's not even nature. It's completely fragmented. So it's not integrative. So there's syntropic agriculture and there's biocyclical permaculture, which are ways of using just the way that nature intended, the seeds, the leaf litter, the bacteria and fungi, and all the symbiosis between and the important critical distinction here is mutual symbiosis. So mutualism. There's 6 types of symbiosis, and only one of them is beneficial to both parties. That's mutual symbiosis. So that's regeneration. Mutual reciprocal relationship. Sorry for taking up so much space. It's hard not to get off that train when there's so much unknown.
Yeah. Hey, Glo, I don't know if you want to bounce back on this. Or otherwise I can jump in as well.
If you have a comment, feel free to jump in.
I mean, as you're asking a question, and Alan, as you were responding, I was thinking about agriculture and whether regenerative agriculture means anything. And if we're talking about, so basically the key question I have, and it's similar to my first question, is honestly, I've been on both ends. My grandparents were small-scale farmers in France. My parents worked in large agro industry all around the world. I lived in communes in Portugal with people trying to live independently and autonomously from small permaculture garden. Where do we go from there? Permaculture is great. I don't know, depending on the region, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen one example of a community or land-based project or an eco-village producing its own food, not one. I also know that the agribusiness is definitely not the solution. And I'm still a bit stuck, and I'm surprised that it's 2024 and we are at the level of collective, I don't know if it's intelligence or stupidity that we're at, and we have technology and resources, and still we don't have one example of a community being able to produce their own food. Why? That's kind of
Can
my
I answer that?
question. Please.
With a question. Why are we expecting a perfect isolated bubble that can self produce all of its goods and resources, completely isolated from the real world? Where's that expectation coming from?
Permaculture, I think.
No, I'm saying
misunderstood. Yeah.
I'm saying it's another way of thinking about a mechanistic world where we are fragmented and we can identify all the moving parts in a system, and then put identify all those individually, find the best practices of all of them, and then put it together in a perfect unifying, harmoniously balanced with a bow on top, and everything's perfect and everything has to work because it worked on paper. So how come in life it's not working? I don't understand. Because it's not regenerative thinking. It's again mechanistic thinking. So one of the ways of thinking about this is what would be a harmonious relationship with all of life, what's called seva-based thinking. It goes beyond the ego to eco thinking, which a lot of people get stuck at eco. So to live harmoniously, there's in nature, there's many examples of this, but in human cultures, once you get to a certain limit of people, you start losing connection and ability to, just keep track of basic things with humans. So that number is known as a Dunbar scale, not a Dunbar number, which a lot of people confuse. It's between, it goes in like 5 bands really. So like the first band is like 5 to 10, then like 10 to 25, 25 to 50, about 75 to 200 for the next band. And that's right when things start breaking down. If a group gets too large and too wildly for its own context and its own connection to land, so it's not always these numbers, it could be smaller. Instead of scaling, which is a big problem and a big holdover from mechanistic industrialized world, what we need to do is instead bifurcate and create sister organizations. So once you've created this like scaling out factor, and you've grown beyond the limits of what's ecologically sound for that area, the carrying capacity of the land, then you scale out with a sister organization. And instead of relying entirely on yourself, because at first and never you can, you always have this interdependency between neighboring places. So maybe if we can create more networked organizations, so like clusters, so that there's nodal interventions that can happen at the cluster level, rather than at the like gigantic city level or even at the tiny level. You can't really support everything internally.
Can I comment or ask a question? I feel like, yeah, it's all the different eco-villages and communities that are currently existing. And to answer that question, why isn't there one? I feel like, as Alan just mentioned, like we need a way to distribute resources between all these organizations and villages, and on a small scale, so that each village can, like, whatever they have more of, they can also share with the other one and have this network to distribute resources. And one of the questions that I've had forever, but still seems like impossible, is like, how do we do that beyond fiat currency? And right now DeFi is like getting controlled by the mainstream, by I feel like DeFi is being corrupted by all the bank investments and the loans and everything. So I just don't see it as a long-term solution for actually making a shift, because it's an $800 billion industry right now. So I'm a fan of gifting, but also that's not going to work universally. But also quantifying something that I've wanted to look at for a long time is like, how do we quantify all this energy that's being distributed, like volunteering, like gifting, that we don't place a value on right now, like our human connection, like the value of our water, and being able to redefine what our economy is. Like, how do we actually implement a new economy? How do we actually put water into our economy? How do we put our human worth into our economy and make that the basis of our economy, so that we can actually shift into a system where everyone has everything they need? Because right now the economic system is based on extraction, and that's not going to shift unless we change the entire foundation of our economy. It's based on extracting human, animal, environmental, IP. And yeah, so my question is like, how do we actually address that? Because it's not until it falls apart, maybe in 20 years, I don't know, how do we build forward while still using like while still integrating with the current systems, but build something new.
Thank you for that. There's something that comes from what Alan shared, and Aksa and Jose and Krista, if you want to jump in, please do anytime, of course. The thing that comes up is that how to scale regenerative agriculture was the wrong question, but I wonder if a closer question is what scale does it need to operate at? Or what scale do we need to think about it at? Because Alan, from what you were sharing earlier, what I got was, please correct me if I got this wrong, but I got something along the lines of how do we design for regenerative agriculture at, this is a question to you, bioregional scale? Is that what you meant to say? And then from what you're sharing just now, Glow, as well, I see the same question, but basically around the economic system, which obviously needs to support and is interlinked to all the other systems.
Well, bioregionalism is a type of thinking that's very important as part of maybe a transition to smaller scale living systems. But I've never heard anyone talk about the Dunbar effect in those circles. Nor have I ever heard anybody talk about degrowth in those circles. I mean, very rarely. So there's this thing where we want to perpetuate the existing systems and in a nicer, smaller scale, like maybe reduce harm, which is a way you like. Excuse me, I won't even go into this. I'm coughing here. But you can't do it incrementally, right? So we have to do this in a and systemic thinking. I don't want to get into that either. Never mind. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, I will just say we have about 1 minute, more or less, until we go back to the plenary. And I would love your support, guys, on what would be the one or the 2 or 3 questions that you feel we can come around together. And who wants to share it with the group? I cannot. Otherwise, yeah, I have my Gathering of Tribes hat on.
Yeah, so if we go up a level, instead of saying how do we feed ourselves, what is the best way to feed ourselves? That's what I assume the question behind this particular question is. It's still devoid from a regenerative thinking, which is to have mutual co-benefits with all of our actions. So instead of just continually to extract from that land, how do we use it for anthropocentric needs? Human-centered thinking is very popular today, but it's so strange because it's what caused all the problems. So how do we instead create life systems that contribute to the health of all ecosystems? So like Carol Sanford always tries to, she's one of my main influencers. She always tries to go to that next level. So instead of talking about food sheds, she talks about life sheds. Instead of talking about watersheds, she talks about life sheds, because we're still fragmentizing everything.
Yeah.
And when you consider life, you consider all of life. Or at least I'm trying to promote that way of thinking, because otherwise it's still that fragmented, separated, human-centered, what can I get out of it? Not what can I give to it? Which is when you talk about SEVA-based thinking, it's about what can I do for the system that gives me so much, and I did not give for it.
Yeah, I love that. Alan, you're hereby nominated to bring this to the plenary. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a good, stimulating time. So I'll give you guys the voice. I don't know if you have someone to share one or more questions that you may have managed to come around.
Yes, fine. I'm going to invite Fu to present his. Oh, what happened to the chat? Disappeared. Damn. Oh yes, no, we got it. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, it closes always when you move from room to room. I have the same issue. Okay.
Right. Okay.
So we found that there is two complementary sides, which is one is more based on the future and the vision, and the other one is more based on the reality on the ground today. So my question is, how can we create massive regenerative impact on the ground and form a concrete shared vision for regenerative agriculture? Which
Great, thank you.
means,
Mhm.
sorry, which means, I said to just
Mhm.
say, when I say concrete, it means detailed, so
Mhm.
that people can really understand it and imagine it. Not abstract academic, but really concrete.
Great. And the other of our members who volunteered a question, if you can do that quickly, Othman.
Yes, how to make the markets aware of the importance of regenerative food, the health value, so that people can pay more, and that is worth doing the work for regenerative farmers.
Thanks. That's our two questions. Over to you.
Thank you. Alan, gonna put you on the spot.
Sure. I propose at the end of our conversation, after a lot of different things that came up, is if we can go back one level higher to what is the purpose of the question itself of how do we scale regenerative agriculture, or how do we promote regenerative agriculture? All these things is we're talking about not just food systems. That's a very human-centered, fragmented way of extractive ecosystem, like taking more from the ecosystem. Even if it's in a regenerative way, it's still inherently not holistic enough of a framing for the question itself. So anyway, my question was, how do we create life systems that contribute to the health of all ecosystems?
Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm just typing. Simon, can you save me while I finish to type the question? How do we create?
No, that's great. Thanks. Yeah, that's really, and I'm letting you write that down. Thanks very much. So, do you have another? And is that the question which you all agreed on? Do you have another question which was somebody else wanted to felt moved to bring up from your breakout?
I just want to quickly check in with Glow. I don't want to. I want to give you the chance to speak. I think we came around this one, but
yeah.
Which question?
No, I just wanted to check with you whether there was one question that you wanted to bring here, or if you're happy with what Alan just shared. I think that's what we agreed.
I really love that question. How do we create life systems that contribute to the health of all ecosystems? And
yeah,
also, I guess, how do we distribute resources between, the network of permaculture farms and eco-villages and intentional communities? We had the question, how do we distribute resources between all organizations to create a network?
Yeah.
So something along those lines around the existing farms sharing resources. How do we make that more streamlined, and how do we activate that?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Just put that in the chat. Fu, I'm sorry, I didn't have time to type your question. Can I ask you if you have it somewhere to just pop it in the chat quickly?
Oh yeah,
Yes, sure. It's here.
there, yeah.
Wait,
Oh, you
with
have?
typo and everything. Let me correct the typo before everyone. Wait.
Great.
I do it. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and on this note, welcome Isa, by the way. So we have another about, let's say, 25 minutes until the end of the session. So we will go into a breakout room again. We will do 2 breakout rooms, except that's for free. Yeah, free. Thank you, Simon.
Yeah, 3 breakout rooms because one for each of the questions, basically.
Yeah. So one breakout room for each of the questions. I will ask the people who brought the questions, in this case, Fu, Alan, and Glo, to go in this breakout room. And then it will be a world, yes.
Well, there's Othman's question about
And
the
Othman,
market.
sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Now, and because it's an open space, don't worry, if nobody comes to your space, then, you know, or somebody come, you can always join somebody else.
Yeah. And we will have 15 minutes. And the idea in these breakout rooms is basically for you all to go deeper into this question. So unpack the question, refine is really the word, refine the question in a way that it can be more clear, that it can bring people together more, that it can increase collaboration more, and yeah, that it can benefit the whole community more, I guess. Simon, is that a good way to express it, or am I missing something?
Yeah, something that in a way which, try and word it in a way which appeals, which is most meaningful and appealing to everybody that might appear at the Gathering of Tribes, and that is going to stimulate the most constructive conversation around that you can imagine. So try and make it rich and alive and engaging. And then we hope to have those nice questions. We'll take them on.
Great. So I've created the rooms. I've given them the titles of the people who brought the questions. So Otman, Alan, Fu, and Glo. And the rooms are now open, and we have 15 minutes, so until 20 past, to just play around. Feel free to move between rooms. Just
I go into my own room. Going to
go
another
into your
one.
own room. Yeah.
Now we're
That
going to
would be
ask people
fun.
to the one person needs to stay there just to hold it together, if you don't
Yeah.
mind, please.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I will again stay.
Right.
Do I need to choose something to go into another room or what?
Well, actually, I had created a room for you, but if you want, we can scratch it, because maybe it's a bit too much, 4 rooms for this amount of people. So maybe you can just join any room that.
Okay, so you've got it under the more. I mean, it depends how your client is working, but for mine, under the more, you've got a breakout rooms, and if you open the breakout rooms, then you can see there are 4 there: Otman, Alan, Fu, and Glow. So go for it.
Yeah. Just choose your room.
Choose your room and just click on the join.
I'll broadcast a question.
Great. I'm just wondering if we can. Yeah. Maybe we should have those somewhere.
Oh.
Audrey, I don't know if you were making a list, but I just
You-
put it into a document so that we could save all the questions.
Right, that's really useful. But I'm
Really
just
good.
trying to think, can we actually label them? How do we create the?
Yeah, I have labeled the breakout rooms. The breakout
You've
rooms.
labeled the breakout rooms with the people, but I'm just wondering if we can actually.
Yeah, you can, but they don't take enough characters for me to put the questions. They have a
Right,
character block.
that's where I was thinking we could use Glow's doc.
Okay. Glo, by the
So
way,
we could
are you
label
able
that
to
one.
join a room, because this is AXA also. This is a sort of non-room.
Yeah.
I know, I just
and-
don't know. I only see one at the top. I'm not sure where I'm looking.
Okay.
I can share my screen to show you, maybe. Oops, no. Oh, I can't. That's funny. Okay, it's not working, but if you go into the more and breakout rooms.
Okay, yeah, now I see it. Sorry, I just have so
Great.
many things.
That's excellent, right? And basically, yeah, Alan was doing the one level higher, about how do we create life systems that contribute to health of all ecosystems. Fu was doing how can we create massive regenerative impact on the ground and form a concrete shed vision. So it's two sides of it. And Otman was talking about how to make the market aware of the importance of regenerative food.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you so
I think
much,
that's
Flo.
so-
Yeah, great. Okay.
Great.
So,
Okay.
well, I think I'll join the room as well.
Yep, sure, me too. What should I
Because
do? Okay, I think I'll go with Alan. Yeah, okay, right.
you go with Alan, I'll go to Otman.
Okay.
I don't hear you. I don't hear you.
I,
Sound
I,
issue?
I, your ideas are very nice, but there are more like answers, right?
Yeah, yes, because we cannot increase the income rapidly unless you have
Yeah.
another idea. For example, I just laid out the ideas that I have. Tell me what you think. What do you mean by cash flow before?
Cash flow, I mean that if you like to make a change, right? Because you asked, you wrote a sentence about market awareness, right?
Yes, yes, yes. That's the main.
So because if you do something bad, or if you, for example, eat shitty food, right?
Yes. No.
You save money because you buy it, cheaply, right?
In the
But
short term.
yeah, in short term, but you spend more on doctors, right?
Yes,
And
in the long run.
and your life quality. So for
Yeah.
me, it is also a cash flow issue, right? So if
Yes.
we can, I mean, if you like to fix these problems, you need to treat it as a system solution, right? So we need to make agreement, food producers, food distributors, and customer, that it's better to share the margin
Yeah.
for the long-term partnership than make a quick margin on particular model, because government pay also for the how to explain, if your people in your country eat bad food, government pay more money on the medical
Healthcare,
healthcare,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
So,
That's the
for me, that's why I'm thinking about cash flow, because at the end of the day, you can spend the same amount of cash and you will be much healthier, right?
yes, yes,
you
I'm
can live.
100%. Yeah.
That's why I
Yes.
said cash flow,
I,
because
I agree with you 100%. So just the problem, I'm talking about awareness. Awareness, when you talk to people, you can never get them to change their minds. It's very difficult. I've lived with them for different societies and different religions and different colors. Yeah, I assure you of this. It's very, very, very almost impossible to change people's mind uh, by reasoning, but you can change it in other ways. For example, that's what I meant. Hello, Obe. Uh, Andre. Yes, I repeat what the idea before. Maybe she has also can comment on it. I think to increase awareness, for example, you have this land and you farm on it, so you make tourism another source of income. Like you construct a building in the land, you rent, and the people when they come into in the land, they see and they get to touch the soil, to smell the area, so they become aware what is of a regenerative food. So these people, you can talk to them, but the people who have never been there, did not touch the soil, you can forget about this. It's very difficult. And the second idea I shared is the children. So like for schools, you give like for a classroom from a school, and you invite them with their teacher or people from school so they can come. They will talk to their parents. They will get a good experience, and they'll talk. They may influence their parents, and maybe they will be future clients in the future. So these ideas are for the long term. For the short term, it's very difficult. Other than the points you have shared, which is health. So you can talk to people. Okay, when you eat food, you will pay much more for doctors, like you have said it before. Yeah.
Can I just jump in because
Yeah.
this is so we can refine your question, and I think your question was how to make the markets aware of the importance of regenerative
Yeah.
food. And from what you're both sharing here, what I'm hearing, please tell
Yeah.
me what you think, is that um, uh, the way I understand both of your conversations is we're talking about the end consumer actually, because this is what
Yes.
matters, right? Like who
Yeah.
is eating
Yeah.
the food, who's at the
Yeah.
very end of the chain. For me, is and we're talking about education, but really about behavior change. And what I
Yeah.
hear is at which point, how do we create the most impactful and necessary behavior change so that regenerative foods becomes the majority of the food being sold at global level in like 5 years, because that's the amount of time that we have, more or less, right? Is that what you meant, more or less? Or I was just kind of trying to reword your same question.
Yeah, more or less. The idea is how to make people pay for such products, because regenerative agriculture is expensive because you need manpower to work on the land,
Yeah.
so you cannot compete with the industrial agriculture. That's you can forget about it. So industrial agriculture gets cheap food but bad quality. Regenerative agriculture, you get high quality food, but the costs are higher. And this is
And
the question.
so, but and do you think that, because this means basically people have the same amount of money, right? I mean,
Yeah.
let's say you have 1,000 euros a month. You
Yeah.
used to spend 20% of that in your food, which wasn't regenerative or organic.
Yeah.
You now need to spend 30, 40, 50% of that in your food because
Yeah.
you understand the importance of regenerative food. What if you don't have it? Like, where else are you spending less money? Like, what is the argument that you bring to people? Because what they're going to tell you is, yeah,
People will
regenerative
will
food is
find
great.
solutions.
Yeah.
People will find solution. For example, I tell you my own experience. I was living in Mainz, Germany, and I broke my hand twice. So and I had a back injury. It was a terrible experience, but I didn't have enough money. I was just earning 800 to 900 euros a month, paying like 450
For
for
rent.
rent, and almost all my money I spent it on food. Almost every cent of it, because I needed to get a healthier back because I was injured. So it was like a need. I needed to eat good food in order to regenerate. And that was a necessity, and it did work in my case. I think other people, especially if the other alternative is bad for them, they will work harder or find another source of income and upgrade their income.
Okay. We have 1 minute left, but I just want to bring in Pavel because this is also where you are. Like this whole conversation brings in a question in me, which is regenerative food really more expensive? Like, is that true? Or are supermarkets just taking more money? And would improvements, innovations in like technological advances bring the cost of regenerative food down in a way that it would make regenerative food accessible to all? Does that make sense? That's the question.
Yes, they are very smart questions. So, to be honest, I think there is it's more about knowledge. So if you, it is more like changing behavior than it's more expensive because you, for example, you can use organic methods to replace, expensive fertilizers. I cannot say that the price is the same, and some practices you need to have a bigger scale. For example, to use, for example, precision agriculture, which is also, I think, part of the regenerative approach, because you put, fertilizer in the place you really need, right? So to use variable fertilizing process, you need to have bigger field to make a proper margin, because you need to buy proper equipment, you need to spend more money on soil sampling, because you need to have better grid, like 1 hectare grid, not 4 hectare grid, which is standard. Some cases, but still it's more like cash flow, I think, issue, because you can, if you spend more on the machine and soil sampling, you will have better savings on fertilizers, because you will measure precisely what amount of fertilizer you need to use. So for me, it is a hard question, because this question it's connected to the target group. We talk about it. So the size of farm, the know-how they have. But for me, the cash it's not the biggest problem. I think the lack of knowledge per hectare. This is the biggest limitation. So sorry for the very wide range answer. I don't know if I say something meaningful.
We have 30 seconds. I want to refine the question because of this conversation. The original question was how to make the market aware of the importance of regenerative food. I refine it by, can tourism on the land help to bring this awareness, like tourism, and also building health centers.
Welcome back, everyone. Ooh, we have new faces. No, everyone is here. Great. How was it?
Good.
Oh.
Too short.
Yeah, always, which is a good sign. More of the gathering. Okay, so we have 9 minutes before the end of this. I just want to give voice to those people who came up with the questions originally. So Otman and Fu and Alan, or anyone else in the room actually who wants to take over in sharing, for you to share what is the refined question. Wow, Alan, is that okay? Yeah, I'll let you.
Alan's just put in. Yeah, that's good.
That is okay.
Go for it.
Yeah, please jump in. I don't want to be naming people.
Should I take the word?
Go for it.
Yeah. Okay. The original question was how to make the market aware of the importance of regenerative food. After refining the question, it says the same, but we can add additional question. Can tourism on the land help achieve that? And can, for example, organize the education, for example, classrooms from schools visiting regenerative agriculture land. Could those help achieve awareness of the importance of regenerative food?
Okay. Who wants to go next?
I can make it quick and short. We really tried to doctor a little bit on the question itself. We added a word and threw some away. How can we joyfully create impact on the ground and form a concrete shared vision for regenerative agriculture?
I love the joyfully. Thank you. And Alan?
Alan's put his question in. Do you want to speak it, Alan, or?
Kind of got to a point at the end there where we're thinking, not trying to be direct with our messaging, but way to get people to get to their own conclusion. So making them think about what would it look like to rewild ourselves and our domesticated animals? We're currently domesticated humans, right? So
Yeah.
what would rewilding look like?
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm captivated by the question. Forgot I'm supposed to facilitate. All right, so that's super beautiful. We're still doing work with Simon and the team around those questions and how specifically we will bring them to the gathering. I may do a little bit of work with Glow in the next few days around putting them online, seeing what's possible with this. But in the meantime, I just want, Simon, if that's okay, I hope I'm not forgetting anything. I just wanted to do a round of checkout, maybe. Yeah.
That sounds great. Yes, thank you. Yes, yeah, yes, that's really, really good. And yeah, a round of checkout. Yes, go ahead.
Victor, can I put you on the spot? You
Yes,
have a
okay.
nice prompt for the checkout?
I think we can do as we did before. Like, what is the question which remains with you? Not necessarily any of these questions which we've actually honed in on, But what is the question which remains with you, which you're going to take forward in your life and work from the stimulus of today?
Thank you. I can call people. Glow, you're first.
I really like the question. What was the question? How do we like create life systems that support the thriving of all ecosystems?
Thank you. David, I don't know if you can speak. Or if you can put it in the you put a comment in the chat because I can read out loud. Really like the rewilding, embracing the complexity that we used to live in. If you want to share anything else, feel free, David. Alan?
I like all my questions, but the one I like the most is would you like to what would it look like to rewild ourselves and our domesticated animals?
Thank you. Krista, you're next.
It was a question that was erased because it felt it was a mistake, but for me, it's the real question. How can humans regenerate themselves, like in recreate themselves?
Thank you. Isa?
Thank you. I have many different things at the same time. I think the main thing is like how we can inspire each other more on the rewardingness of implementing regenerative action, and yeah, really take each other along on the road of this daily questioning of the impact and implementations.
Thank you. Victor?
So the question that remained with me is, how do we normalize this? How do we get to the point where regeneration is no longer a thing? It's just how we do everything.
Thank you. Atman?
Yes, the question that resonated with me that I didn't have before is actually from Fu. He talked about upscaling and deep scaling, and that is very, very, very interesting point to explore. I will dive deep into it. Maybe share ideas with you next time. Meantime, I have a comment on Krista. She mentioned that she has a question how that we human beings regenerate. I would like to say congratulations. We have a book by Mr. Jeremy Griffith. Its name is Freedom, The End of the Human Condition. That's the name of the book. And in it, he lays out all the details. It takes a long while to read it. Take a look at it.
Thank you. I'll put the link
Thank
in
you.
the chat section. Fu.
Wow. So I practice radical authenticity and at the same time politeness. I want to say one thing that is really, really alive in me after this session, and I would really like to invite you, Alan, so that we can speak in a one-on-one chat. We had once a fiery conversation in a different setting in the chat where we talked about veganism, about regeneration, about the whole concept of wildness, of domesticated animals, etc. And I would love to continue that conversation in a very, very calm way. And so because I literally like I didn't have a single thing where I wouldn't like raise like let's say like oppose parts of what you have said, things that you implied in your questions that I don't share as a vision and as a paradigm. So I don't like to be like, I don't like these implications in things. I like to have a language that is not implying certain type of paradigms that might not be constants. So I really would love to do that. And so my question is, how can we overcome fragmentation in a respectful, non-polemic, and loving way? That is what I want to do for myself, and that is what I see inside of our bubble, our regenerative bubble, a lot. And I would love to work on that, to unify.
Thank you. Pavel.
Okay, I'm finishing my sentence. Sorry. So my question, which I will get to bring to my home after this call, is if the cash flow and margin perspective of the global food chain, healthcare, and wellness markets between key actors of the ecosystem can drive our ideas to the questions regarding impact and scale up regenerative agriculture. So in other words, I like to understand how the financial perspective can inspire us, because as Andrew, you asked me about the price. If you ask me if regenerative agriculture is more expensive, right, than classic one, it depends how the big picture we will see, because this is the cash flow also question. So I assume that in the long term perspective, it can be definitely cheaper because people can live more, spend less on the healthcare. Government can spend less on the medical support. So depends what time frame we will choose. The answer will be different, right? So my question for me, maybe for all of us, is the financial aspect, especially the flow of the cash in this ecosystem, but combined between the actors: agriculture, so food chain, healthcare, and wellness. So I don't know if it's
Thank you. Yeah, that's
viable for
good.
you, but
It's very
this is
viable. Thank you so much. Yeah. I just want to say as well, we're 3 minutes past, so I am aware of everyone's time. If you feel like going, please do leave the room. But I also do want to leave space for Simon to share your question as a checkout.
I found my mouse. Yes, my checkout question is two ways. How can we use, this goes back to a previous experience of mine, how can we use the psychology and imagery and meaningful imagery of agriculture, nature, rewilding to aid in communication and understanding between us? And as an offer, I would like to offer to facilitate polarized conversations and, help people to understand and understand each other if anybody wants to do that. That would be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And very quickly for me, where are the farmers? What are they thinking? How do we take them in? Yeah. All right. I guess that's it. Thank you so much, everyone. This was really inspiring for me, at least. I hope it was for you as well. Really grateful for all of you to giving between 60 and 90 minutes of your really precious time that you're already dedicating to beautiful projects around the world. We will have more sessions. We will share the recording of this one online. And all your beautiful questions will be harvested and redistributed to the wider public for the greater good. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful evening and see you soon. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. One love.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Thank you, everybody.